The rise of the Terran Reclaimers. In the year 2045, the Earth was not as we once knew it. Overpopulated cities spread across continents like wildfire, the scars of environmental neglect and over-industrialization painfully evident. Yet amidst this backdrop of decay, humanity thrived in its technological golden age, reaching towards the stars with greedy fingers and boundless ambition. The United Global Coalition, UGC, a mega-alliance formed by the remnants of former nations, now governed the planet with a strict but efficient hand. The UGC had managed to keep a tenuous peace through a mix of diplomatic cunning and technological prowess, enforcing its rule with a fleet of automated drones and AI-driven policing systems. At the heart of UGC's strategy was the monumental space elevator known as the Ascendant. Anchored in the Atlantic just off the coast of what used to be Sierra Leone, the Ascendant stretched beyond the Earth's atmosphere, a towering testament to human ingenuity and a lifeline to the orbital colonies and mining operations on the Moon and Mars. Dr. Arara Miles, a prominent astrophysicist, gazed at the holographic projections flickering in her lab. The soft hum of machinery played a comforting melody as she analyzed data from recent asteroid mining missions. The peace, however, was superficial. Underneath the technological achievements and the facade of societal prosperity, a storm was brewing. Arara had been privy to classified discussions about a growing threat, an insurgent group known as the Terran Reclaimers. They were radicals, eco-terrorists in the eyes of the UGC, who believed that humanity should abandon its extraterrestrial ambitions and focus on restoring Earth. Their attacks had been minor so far, but their rhetoric was becoming increasingly aggressive, and their numbers were growing. Just as Arara adjusted the focus on her hologram, her office door chimed. It was her assistant, Theo, a young and eager graduate from the UGC Academy. "Dr. Miles, there's an urgent message from Director Juan. He needs you at the command center," Theo said, his voice tinged with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Arara nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "Let's not keep the director waiting." As they walked briskly through the corridors of the UGC's research facility, the air was abuzz with whispers and hurried steps. The facility, a sprawling complex buried under the remnants of the Appalachian Mountains, was a hive of activity with scientists and military personnel mingling in a choreographed dance of urgency. Upon reaching the command center, Arara was met with a wall of screens, each displaying different sectors of Earth and space operations. Director Juan, a stern-faced man with a reputation for ruthless efficiency, stood at the center of the room, his eyes locked on a particular screen. "Dr. Miles, thank you for coming so quickly," Director Juan began, his voice steady. "We have detected unusual activity near the Ascendant's base station. Initial reports suggest it might be an attack. Given your expertise with the space elevator systems, I need you to help us assess the situation." Arara's heart skipped a beat. An attack on the Ascendant could be catastrophic, not just for the structure itself, but for the entire geopolitical landscape. The elevator was not merely a tool for space travel. It was a symbol of the UGC's power and a critical asset in the Earth-Mars supply chain. As she approached the designated console, her mind was already racing through potential scenarios. Could this be the work of the Terran Reclaimers? If so, how did they bypass the security systems? What was their end goal? As Arara began her diagnostic checks, the room filled with a tense silence, punctuated only by the clicking of keys and the occasional murmur of updates. The stakes were high, and everyone in the room knew it. The peaceful era, it seemed, was on the brink of shattering. Little did they know this was just the beginning. The real challenge was yet to come, and it would test the very fabric of human courage and ingenuity in the face of war. The sabotage unveiled. At the UGC command center, the tension escalated as the screens flickered with incoming data. Arara Miles's fingers flew over the control interface, her focus laser-sharp as she sought to untangle the mysterious signals emanating from the base of the Ascendant. Beside her, Director Juan monitored the situation, his gaze never wavering from the data storm unfolding before him. "Dr. Miles, what's your assessment?" Juan asked, his voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying an urgency that echoed loudly in the silent room. Arara paused, analyzing the last set of data before responding. "It's definitely sabotage," she declared. "The pattern of interference doesn't match any known technical failure. Someone has intentionally disrupted the Ascendant's base operations." In the background, security footage from the base station finally loaded, revealing a group of heavily armed individuals planting what appeared to be explosive devices at critical junctures of the facility. Their movements were precise, suggesting military training, yet there were no identifiers that could link them to any known faction or military organization. "Theo, enhance Section 4. I want a closer look at their gear," Arara instructed. Her assistant nodded as he zoomed in on the footage. The details that came into focus were chilling. A patch on one of the assailants' uniforms bore a symbol. A green and blue earth encased in a broken chain, the unmistakable emblem of the Terran Reclaimers. "This confirms it," Arara said, her voice steady despite the implications. "The Reclaimers have escalated their tactics. This isn't just a protest or a demonstration. They're aiming to cripple us." Director Wan stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor with a harsh sound. "Prepare to initiate the crisis response protocol. Notify all sectors and alert our forces at the Mars colony. We cannot let them succeed." As the command was relayed, Arara turned her attention back to the technical readouts. She had a dual task now: to help thwart the immediate threat and to ensure the integrity of the Ascendant for future operations. The sabotage, if successful, would not only endanger lives but also sever the critical supply and communication lines between Earth and its extraterrestrial assets. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the room, Theo watched the events unfold with a growing sense of foreboding. He knew more than he let on, having stumbled upon encrypted messages on a hidden server days before, hinting at an insider within the UGC who sympathized with the Reclaimers. The thought that someone among them could be a traitor made him uneasy, but there was no time to delve deeper now. The priority was clear: safeguard the Ascendant and with it, humanity's foothold in the solar system. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Arara worked seamlessly with her team, rerouting power and reinforcing the elevator's defensive protocols. Director Wan coordinated with military leaders and strategists, forming a barricade of resolve and readiness around the beleaguered base station. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Earth, the first reports of engagement came through. In the murky light of the control room, Arara watched as the conflict unfolded at the base of the Ascendant. The screens displayed a chaotic ballet of flashes and maneuvers, UGC forces clashing with the insurgents in a desperate bid to secure the facility. The Terran Reclaimers, armed with advanced weaponry and tactical precision, fought with a ferocity that belied their numbers. But the UGC was not without its own resources. Drones and automated defense systems sprang into action, creating a web of firepower that held the attackers at bay. Arara's heart pounded as she monitored the situation, her mind racing with calculations and contingency plans. The fate of the Ascendant, and perhaps the future of humanity's expansion into space, hung in the balance. The hidden threat. As the battle raged on, Arara's console beeped with a new alert. She quickly scanned the data and felt a chill run down her spine. A secondary signal, masked by the main interference, had been detected. It was coming from within the UGC's own network. "Theo, run a trace on this signal," Arara instructed, her voice tense. "We might have a mole inside." Theo nodded, his fingers dancing over the keyboard. The trace led them to a sub-level of the facility, an area restricted to high-level personnel only. The implications were clear. The Terran Reclaimers had a collaborator deep within the UGC. "We need to isolate this threat immediately," Arara said, turning to Director Wan. "If they have access to our systems, they could compromise the entire operation." Wan's expression hardened. "Agreed. I'll dispatch a security team to apprehend the suspect. In the meantime, focus on maintaining the Ascendant's integrity." As the security team moved to intercept the mole, Arara and Theo continued their efforts to stabilize the Ascendant. The situation was precarious. The insurgents had inflicted significant damage, and the structure's automated defenses were struggling to keep up with the onslaught. Just as it seemed the tide might turn in their favor, a massive explosion rocked the base of the Ascendant. Arara's heart sank as she saw the damage reports. Several key support struts had been destroyed, and the elevator's stability was now in serious jeopardy. "We need to stabilize those supports," Arara shouted over the din. "Divert power from non-essential systems and reinforce the structural integrity fields." As her team worked frantically to implement the emergency measures, the security team reported back. They had captured the Mole, a high-ranking engineer who had been feeding information to the Reclaimers. Under interrogation, he revealed a chilling plan. The Reclaimers intended to bring down the Ascendant entirely, severing the link between Earth and its orbital colonies. "We can't let that happen," Director Juan said grimly. "If the Ascendant falls, it will set us back decades. All our progress, all our efforts to expand into space will be for nothing." Arara nodded, determination hardening her resolve. "We'll stop them, Director, whatever it takes." A desperate gamble. With the immediate threat of the Mole neutralized, Arara and her team redoubled their efforts to stabilize the Ascendant. The damage was extensive, but not insurmountable. By rerouting power and reinforcing key structural points, they managed to halt the immediate collapse. But the battle was far from over. The Terran Reclaimers, realizing their initial plan had been thwarted, regrouped and launched a renewed assault. This time, they aimed for the control center itself, seeking to disable the UGC's ability to coordinate the defense. "We need to hold this position," Director Juan ordered. "If they take the control center, we'll lose all command and control capabilities." Arara knew the stakes. She directed her team to implement additional security protocols, locking down critical systems and rerouting controls to secondary locations. As the insurgents pressed their attack, the UGC forces fought back with everything they had. In the midst of the chaos, Arara received a direct message from Theo. "Dr. Miles, I've found something. There's an auxiliary power core deep within the facility. If we can activate it, we might be able to boost the Ascendant's defenses and buy ourselves more time." "Can you get to it?" Arara asked. "I'll need a team, but yes, I can do it," Theo replied. Arara turned to Director Juan. "We have a potential solution, but it's risky. We need to activate an auxiliary power core to reinforce our defenses." Juan considered the proposal. "Do it. Take whoever you need and make it happen." Theo gathered a small team and set off for the sublevels, navigating through the facility's labyrinthine corridors. As they made their way deeper into the complex, the sounds of battle grew more distant, replaced by the eerie hum of machinery and the occasional creak of metal. Reaching the auxiliary power core, Theo's team worked quickly to bring it online. The process was complex, requiring precise calibration and synchronization with the Ascendant's main systems. As they worked, Theo couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against time. Back in the control center, Arara monitored their progress, her anxiety mounting with each passing second. The battle outside raged on, but the UGC forces were holding their ground. If Theo could succeed, they might have a chance to turn the tide. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Theo's voice crackled over the comms. "We're online. Activating the power core now." A surge of energy coursed through the facility as the auxiliary power core came to life. The Ascendant's defenses hummed with renewed vigor, repelling the Reclaimers' attacks and stabilizing the structure. The immediate crisis had been averted, but the war was far from over. The battle for control. With the auxiliary power core online, the Ascendant's defenses were bolstered, giving the UGC forces a much-needed advantage. The Terran Reclaimers, realizing their window of opportunity was closing, launched a final, desperate assault. Arara and her team continued to monitor the situation, coordinating efforts to repel the attackers and maintain the integrity of the Ascendant. The control center buzzed with activity as reports of skirmishes and tactical maneuvers flowed in. Director Juan, ever the strategist, directed the UGC forces with precision. We need to push them back and secure the base. If we can hold out a little longer, we can drive them off entirely. Arara's attention was drawn to a new alert on her console. A small group of Reclaimers had managed to breach the outer defenses and were making their way towards the primary control nexus. Director, we have incoming hostiles. They're heading straight for us. Prepare to defend the control center, Juan ordered. We can't let them take this position. The control center staff, though not soldiers, steeled themselves for the impending confrontation. Security personnel took up defensive positions, ready to repel the attackers. Arara's heart pounded as the sound of gunfire and explosions grew closer. The first wave of Reclaimers breached the entrance, their faces grim with determination. A fierce firefight ensued, with the UGC security forces holding the line. Arara ducked behind a console, her mind racing with possibilities. They needed a tactical advantage, something to tip the scales in their favor. Theo, can you reroute power to the security systems? We need all the help we can get, Arara called out. I'm on it, Theo replied, his fingers flying over the controls. Within moments, automated turrets sprang to life, targeting the intruders with pinpoint accuracy. The Reclaimers, caught off guard by the sudden surge in defensive firepower, faltered. The UGC forces seized the opportunity, pushing forward and reclaiming ground. Arara's pulse quickened as the tide began to turn in their favor. As the battle raged on, a new threat emerged. A heavily armored Reclaimer, wielding a massive energy weapon, stormed into the control center. His presence was a stark contrast to the other attackers, his movements deliberate and deadly. Arara watched in horror as he cut a swath through the UGC defenders. We need to take him down now. Director Juan nodded, signaling for a concentrated attack. The remaining security personnel focused their fire on the armored intruder, but his advanced armor absorbed most of the impact. Desperation clawed at Aurora's mind as she searched for a solution. Theo, can you overload the power grid? Use the energy surge to disable his suit, Arara suggested. It's risky, but it's our best shot, Theo agreed. Give me a minute. As Theo worked to implement the plan, the battle continued to rage. The armored Reclaimer advanced, shrugging off the defenders' attacks. Arara's breath caught in her throat as he approached her position, his weapon charging for a final strike. Now, Theo, Arara shouted. A blinding flash of light filled the room as the power grid overloaded, sending a surge of energy through the facility. The armored Reclaimer's suit sparked and sputtered, the advanced systems failing under the strain. He staggered, his weapon falling from his grasp. Seizing the moment, the UGC defenders launched a final assault, overwhelming the disoriented intruder. The control center fell silent, the sounds of battle fading as the last of the Reclaimers were subdued. Arara collapsed against the console, her body trembling with relief. They had held the line, but the cost had been high. The Ascendant was safe for now, but the threat of the Terran Reclaimers still loomed large. Uncertain victory. As the dust settled and the immediate threat subsided, the UGC forces began to assess the damage. The Ascendant, though battered and bruised, remained standing. The Terran Reclaimers had been repelled, but the cost of the battle was evident in the weary faces and the silent memorials for those who had fallen. Arara and Director Juan stood together, surveying the aftermath. We won this battle, but the war is far from over, Juan said, his voice tinged with both resolve and weariness. Arara nodded, her mind already racing with the challenges that lay ahead. The Reclaimers won't stop. They'll regroup and come at us again. We need to strengthen our defenses and find a way to address their grievances. Juan looked thoughtful. Perhaps it's time we consider a different approach. We can't ignore the fact that their concerns about Earth's environment are valid. If we can find a way to address those concerns while maintaining our space operations, we might be able to diffuse their aggression. Arara considered the idea. It won't be easy. The Reclaimers are deeply entrenched in their beliefs, but if we can offer a path forward that addresses their concerns, it might just be possible. As they discussed potential strategies, A new alert came through. It was a message from the Mars colony, reporting unusual activity near their mining operations. Arara's heart sank. The Reclaimers' reach extended further than they had anticipated. "We need to send a team to investigate," Dwan said, his expression grim. "If the Reclaimers are targeting our off-world operations, we need to be ready." Arara agreed. "I'll prepare a team. We can't let them jeopardize our efforts on Mars." As preparations began for the new mission, Arara couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of a much larger conflict. The battle for the Ascendant had been a wake-up call, highlighting the fragile balance of power that defined their era. In the days that followed, the UGC worked tirelessly to repair the damage and fortify their defenses. New security protocols were implemented, and plans were made to address the environmental concerns that fueled the Reclaimers' anger. It was a delicate balancing act, but one that was necessary for the survival of humanity's ambitions. As the team prepared to depart for Mars, Arara took a moment to reflect on the journey that lay ahead. The path was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but it was also filled with potential. The future of humanity depended on their ability to navigate the challenges and forge a new path forward. With a deep breath, Arara boarded the shuttle, ready to face the unknown. The battle for the Ascendant had been won, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning. A new dawn. The journey to Mars was tense but uneventful, giving Arara and her team time to strategize and prepare for the challenges ahead. Upon arrival, they were greeted by the stark beauty of the Martian landscape, a testament to humanity's determination and resilience. The Mars colony, a sprawling complex of domes and underground facilities, bustled with activity. The mining operations were crucial to the UGC's plans, providing the resources needed to sustain their efforts both on Earth and in space. Arara met with the colony's leaders, discussing the recent activity and the potential threat posed by the Reclaimers. "We've detected unusual signals near our mining sites," said Colonel Hughes, the colony's security chief. "We suspect the Reclaimers are planning something, but we haven't been able to pinpoint their exact location." Arara nodded. "We'll need to conduct a thorough investigation. If the Reclaimers are here, we need to find them and stop their plans." The team divided into smaller units, each tasked with monitoring different areas of the colony. Arara and Theo focused on the primary mining site, where the signals had been strongest. As they explored the area, they uncovered signs of sabotage, tampered equipment, hidden caches of explosives, and encrypted communications. "They're definitely here," Theo said, his voice tense. "We need to act fast." Arara agreed. "Let's gather the evidence and report back. We need to coordinate our efforts and take them down before they can cause any real damage." As they worked, Arara couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. The Reclaimers were relentless, their determination fueled by a deep-seated belief in their cause. It was clear that this conflict would not be easily resolved. Back at the colony's command center, the team reviewed their findings and formulated a plan. "We need to strike hard and fast," Colonel Hughes said. "If we can catch them off guard, we might be able to neutralize the threat before it escalates." Arara nodded, her resolve firm. "Let's do it. We'll hit them with everything we've got." The operation commenced at dawn, with the UGC forces moving swiftly and decisively. The Reclaimers, caught off guard by the sudden assault, scrambled to defend their positions. The ensuing battle was fierce, but the UGC's superior tactics and preparation gave them the upper hand. As the dust settled and the last of the Reclaimers were captured or driven off, Arara felt a sense of relief. They had secured the colony and protected their operations, but the fight was far from over. "We've won a significant victory today," Director Wan said in a message to the team, "but we must remain vigilant. The Reclaimers will not give up easily, and we need to be prepared for whatever comes next." Arara knew he was right. The battle for humanity's future was ongoing, and the challenges ahead would require all their strength, ingenuity, and determination. But as she looked out at the Martian landscape, she also felt a sense of hope. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, proving that humanity's spirit could endure even the harshest trials. as the team regrouped and prepared for the next phase of their mission. Arara took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought them here. The path was uncertain, but they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. Together, they would forge a new dawn for humanity, one where the dreams of the stars could coexist with the responsibilities of their home. The story of the Ascendant and the Terran Reclaimers was just one chapter in the epic tale of humanity's quest for the stars. And as Arara looked to the future, she knew that their greatest adventures were still to come.